Good morning, guys. We are officially on week 2 of remote learning. We made it through the first week. Hopefully we won't have much longer to go through this. But just going through the agenda of what we're going to be doing this week. We've only got class twice. So today we are going to finish up our cat unit. We're going to go over cat diseases, infectious, non-infectious, parasites, and then y'all are going to have one smaller assignment, like literally 4 questions. And then I'm going to post an article about the tiger at the Bronx Zoo that has COVID-19. It's got some questions to go through, something to think about, something real world related to as we're going through cat diseases. Here is a cat with a current disease that's a big problem for us. On Thursday, I'm not going to be posting a video or anything. On Thursday, I'm going to post a link for SchoolNet questions that go through the cat unit. And then if you need to work on any makeup work, anything from this past week, from week 1, or finish up one of the 2 assignments for today that y'all are going to be doing, then Thursday is essentially going to be a makeup day, plus the SchoolNet questions. Starting with the PowerPoint, since we've got about 20 slides, and we're going to start out with infectious diseases, so diseases that cats can get from other cats, diseases that are contagious, they can be transmitted. The first one is Feline Panleukopenia. This is essentially cat distemper. We talked about dog distemper or canine distemper that dogs can get and ferrets can get. Feline Panleukopenia is essentially the cat version. It's a DNA virus. It's very contagious. So if you've got one cat that has it, it's going to very quickly spread to the rest of your cats. Typically, it's only going to be in kittens. A lot of times when we have animal diseases, you're going to see them in the young animals. You're going to see sick puppies. You're going to see sick kittens. You're going to see sick baby animals. If it does affect a young animal, then typically it's going to have a very high mortality rate because the kittens don't have a strong enough immune system to be able to fight off like as bad of a disease as cat distemper or feline panleukopenia. It's a DNA virus. It's literally attacking their entire body and their cells. And by it attacking their DNA, the fabric of their body, it ends up making them more susceptible to getting other diseases. So if the feline panleukopenia doesn't kill them, then something else is going to come along the way. They're going to end up contracting another disease just because of their weakened immune system. So if it's a mild case, if it's an older animal, like an adult cat, then typically it's going to be a mild case. They're going to survive it. They're going to be okay. There are some vaccines out there that you can give them, and typically if you have a mother cat and she gives birth, she'll pass that immunity or passive immunity to the kittens so that they're going to be immune from getting it. If the cat isn't vaccinated for it, or if the vaccine is ineffective, then you can't really treat it. Supportive therapy just means treating the symptoms. You're just trying to make their time here, what little bit of time that they have left, more comfortable. You're putting them on pain relievers. You're putting them on like anti-nausea medicine. You're just trying to make them feel better because there isn't really anything outside of that you can do for them. The feline herpesvirus, it's a respiratory virus. Also a DNA virus, so DNA viruses are not something that we really want our animals to end up getting because it's not the best way for diseases to be contracted. There's not really much that you can do with it. Because it's infectious, it's going to be spread to other animals or spread to other cats, and it's going to be spread through not bodily fluids, but respiratory fluids. So runny nose, spit, gunk in the eyes, they get a cough and they accidentally like cough on you or cough on the wall or something, then another cat goes up and smells like, what is this? And that other cat is literally just breathing in that virus. And with it being a respiratory virus, as soon as they breathe it in, it's right where it wants to be. The virus, it can take a while to try to get rid of, and typically the cats will end up becoming carriers for it, meaning they can still pass it. They may not be like sick, but they're still carrying the virus. You're going to see all the same symptoms that you're going to see with any other respiratory disease, though. You're going to see sneezing, coughing, eye and nasal discharge. You can also end up seeing some ulcers, which is going to be a little bit different than what we're expecting. But because it's a DNA virus, it is attacking more than just their respiratory system. So you can see it on their mouth, you'll see it on their corneas or their eyes. It's not a very pretty disease. So the best thing that you can end up doing is vaccinate your animals for it. Because it is directly spread or spread through direct contact, if you only have one cat or if you're not bringing in a bunch of new cats, then your cats will probably be fine. But if you're like a foster parent or if you're thinking about getting a new cat, then a vaccine is something that you definitely want to think about. Because what they want to end up doing to try to treat it is they're going to give antibiotics to try to treat other infections that come in. So the DNA virus, it's weakening the entire body. It may be affecting the respiratory system, but it's attacking everything else in the body too, so that other infections can end up coming in. So antibiotics are going to be given to try to fight off any secondary infections that might happen. You're going to have eye ointments that you're going to have to put in, obviously, in the cat's eyes to try to clear up some of that gunk. And also, if they have or if they may end up developing ulcers, then you're going to want to use that eye ointment to prevent it and treat it. And decongestants. Because, just think about when you have a cold and you can't breathe. Having a respiratory virus makes things much, much more difficult. So the cat is coughing, they're sneezing, they're trying to get essentially the snot out of their body. And getting that snot out of that body is good for them. Not so good if you have any other cats in the house that can end up contracting it. So giving them decongestants in hopes that they won't end up just continuously spreading it. Like if they can just go ahead and clear up their system once and for all and keep their system clear, then it's going to be better for your cat and any other cats or animals that you have in the house. Feline infectious peritonitis, or FIP for short, because it's way easier to say that. This is caused by a coronavirus. This isn't the coronavirus that we're learning that is going on in the world right now. There's tons and tons and tons of different coronaviruses, like probably well over 100 different coronaviruses. The one we're dealing with right now is just one of the many. FIP is caused by a coronavirus, and rather than this one affecting the respiratory system like COVID-19 does, this one ends up affecting other bodily systems, like the digestive system most typically. You can see FIP in two different forms. You can see the wet version or the dry version. So the wet version, it's pretty gross because obviously the wet form of a disease sounds disgusting. So wet FIP is essentially total organ failure, where the coronavirus is not just selecting one body system to target, it's affecting all of them. The digestive system, the respiratory system, the circulatory, it's affecting everything. It ends up causing the entire body cavity to fill with fluid, which is where we get the wet version of the name. You can see the dry version too. The dry version, I guess, is what you would end up wanting to see because it only affects one specific organ or system, which isn't great. but it is better than the entire body shutting down. With the dry version of FIP, it can be just the digestive system, most typically that you're going to end up seeing. Or you can see, there's geese flying over. You can see lesions start coming onto their eyes. And if you don't end up catching it, by like taking them to the vet and saying, I think something's wrong, they're not acting right, then it can end up leading to organ failure. You do get more time with your animal, I guess, with the dry version, because it's not their entire body system shutting down. It's not just, with the wet version, it's their kidneys, their stomach, their intestines, their lungs, like everything is shutting down because their body cavity is filling with fluid. With the dry version, it's just one of those organs is stopping working. Unfortunately, though, you typically don't see a ton of symptoms. Like the lesions on the eye is probably going to be one of the giveaways that they have FIP and they have the dry version of it, because that's going to be an external sign that you're going to see. The rest of it, you can just chalk it up to, oh, my cat's having a bad day. They're not very hungry. They must have ate too much the night before. They don't feel like moving, or they're laying in the sun. They're like, oh, it must just feel good in the sun. They don't want to get up. You can see weight loss. Oh, maybe they just don't like their food. I need to switch up their food. So FIP can be really difficult to detect just because of its lack of symptoms and our ability to just kind of write off the symptoms that they do have. Oh, I'll go back. These are lesions starting to grow. So we see the lesions on the eyes, but the rest of the body is also developing these lesions that end up turning into pus pockets. The best prevention we can do, not really a whole lot, essentially just cleaning the facilities. So thinking about the coronavirus that's going on right now, COVID-19, everyone is saying that we need to keep our distance. We need to wash our hands. We only need to leave the house for essential business. Which again, like that doesn't sound like that. It doesn't sound like that's a ton that we can really do. Like it's essentially out of our hands. Like if we get it going to the grocery store, then it's kind of like, well, we get it. The only thing we can really do is sanitation, cleaning facilities. We clean our hands, we clean our house. The grocery stores are getting cleaned, the gas stations are getting cleaned. Like all of these places that are still open are having to make sure they're really, really, really cleaning their place in order to try to get rid of the coronavirus. The coronavirus that causes FIP works just about the same way, where if you can keep the facilities clean, you clean out the cat's litter box, you change out their food and water daily. Like if you're just keeping things clean, then that's going to be the best thing that you can do. It's not, FIP isn't super, super common. It's going to be typically just, it's going to be spread from one cat to the next. So unless you have all of these cats that are just together, then you're probably not going to end up seeing a whole lot of FIP. There is a vaccine that you can give cats. It hasn't really been shown to do a whole lot as far as like actually preventing it. Some cats don't get FIP, some cats do. So it's had a lot of really limited effectiveness shown, and so much to the point that most vets won't even recommend it. They just said there isn't really a point in using that vaccine or a vaccine period for preventing FIP. If the cat does get it, there is no treatment, supportive therapy. And again, with there being so many different coronaviruses, there isn't a lot you can do as far as treatment. People getting COVID-19, they're on ventilators in the hospital, like trying to continue having their respiratory system work. Because FIP doesn't just affect the respiratory system, it can affect any organ in the body. It can infect the entire body. There's not really a lot that you can do for the animal. All you can do is really just kind of treat the symptoms, and there aren't really a lot of symptoms that you can treat. Typically, it's just going to be some pain medication and maybe some antibiotics to try to fight off other infections. But typically, most owners are just going to elect to go on and euthanize the animal, because when your animal's insides look like this, that's not an animal that you want to have to continue going if they don't have to. So feline enteric coronavirus, there's another one. So enteric, if we think about the diseases and the terminology that we learned near the beginning of the year, enter with an E means intestines. So this is a coronavirus that is specifically gonna target the cat's intestinal system or intestinal tract. It's gonna be spread, typically kittens are gonna have it because it's gonna be spread through them eating feces, contaminated feces. It could be the mother cat, it could be another cat in the house that has it and you don't even realize that they go use the litter box. And then your kittens finally get big enough that they're walking around and exploring. They're like, oh, a litter box, what's this? And they accidentally eat some. It happens. If they eat feces from one of the cats that's contaminated or has the virus, then they're going to end up contracting the virus as well. And you're typically going to see it in kittens because they're the only ones that you're really going to see that are going to eat feces. Animals don't eat feces on purpose, especially grown ones. Typically, it's just going to be a curious kitten that's like, oh, what is this? Or maybe they bat some poop out of the litter box and it's covered and they're like, oh, it's a toy, oh, it's a toy. And they accidentally get some feces on their paw. Well, when they finally get done playing, they're going to want to go clean up. So they're going to lick their hand, they're going to lick their paw, they're going to try to groom themselves. And they're going to lick that feces and that virus off of their paw right into their body. It's typically not something done on purpose. But if you have a cat or a kitten that gets it, you're going to see diarrhea, blood in the feces, vomiting. Essentially, you're going to see symptoms that something is wrong with their digestive system. They can't keep food down. The food isn't sitting long enough in the large intestine and having that water be absorbed, so they're having diarrhea, or they're having some internal bleeding in their digestive system somewhere that's causing blood to come out. You may see them drinking more water because they're getting dehydrated. If they're vomiting or having diarrhea, then their body isn't getting enough water because it's expelling the water one way or the other. So you may see them drinking a lot of water too. If it's spread through contaminated feces, then the best thing you can do is to clean the litter boxes. Clean with disinfectant. Try to make sure that there's no poop in the litter box. Because if your cat gets it, there isn't any treatment. There isn't really anything that you can do other than separate the positive cats and the negative cats. Because again, it's never accidental. You might just have a really playful, like 4 or 5 year old cat that the poop comes out of the litter box and they start batting it around. And then they go to clean their paws. And then your negative cat suddenly and accidentally becomes another one of your positive cats. So cleaning the litter box is really, really important for the prevention of the coronavirus or of the feline enteric coronavirus. Moving into non-infectious diseases, diseases that cannot be spread from one cat to the other. These are diseases that cats develop over time. The first one is FUS, Feline Urologic Syndrome. Uro meaning urine. So this is going to be a disease that affects the cat's urinary system. You can also see it referred to as the feline lower urinary tract disease. That's a lot. Typically, you're just going to see feline urinary tract disease or FUS. FUS, it can range in the severity of it. You can see like a really mild case with like a little bit of blockage of the urethra, all the way to like the bladder rupturing because the cat literally cannot pee. Typically, you're going to see it can be from diet, from your cat not eating food with the correct amount of nutrients. If you give cats feed that's high in like magnesium and phosphorus, that's essentially like high calcium, then you're going to start getting these calcium deposits. And those calcium deposits can end up being what ends up causing that blockage. It can be from low water intake, your cat not drinking enough to be able to dissolve those salts that it's eating. If your cat has ingest a lot of sodium or a lot of salt, they need that water to try to dissolve it. Otherwise, that salt is just going to sit in their system. It's going to kind of build up until it eventually basically solidifies. Symptoms that you're going to see straining to urinate. Like you're going to see the symptoms of a cat that has like a urinary tract infection. Straining to urinate. They're going to the litter box and they're not really peeing. So when you go to clean that litter box like you're supposed to every day, maybe even more than once, then you're only finding like maybe 1 or 2 pee puddles in there. And you're like, my cat should probably be peeing twice this much. Where's all the pee? If your cat isn't urinating enough, then that typically means they have some kind of urinary tract infection. You can also see blood in the urine. So when you're cleaning out the litter box, you don't see like the little gray crystals or whatever your litter looks like. You might see some red. You never want to see red in the litter box. So you can see in the picture, the stones where it's essentially, it's blocking. These little stones, these are going to be where you see the straining to urinate. And then when you have like a big crystal like this is going to be the failure to use the litter box, and quite possibly blood from them straining so hard to pee that rock ends up scraping the lining of their urethra. And that's where you see the blood at. You want to make sure your cat always has a lot of water available for them. You want to check out what your cat is eating. Make sure you're feeding them a good cat diet. Most good foods, and I mean even like your basic foods like Friskies, you're typically not gonna find foods that are high in magnesium and phosphorus because people know that this can be a problem. And they don't want to be the source of thousands of cats across the country getting a urinary tract infection and possibly dying. So typically you're not going to see cat diets that are high in magnesium and phosphorus. If your cat does get it, it's not necessarily, probably not a death sentence unless we get to like, you wait so long that the cat's bladder ruptures, where their bladder literally is so full of pee that it basically explodes. If you catch it early on, or even if you catch it just before their bladder explodes, then you can take them to the vet, you'll get a pain reliever, you're gonna increase their water take, and you basically just have to kind of give them time. If it's severe enough, then some vets will go in and they'll do surgery. Kind of like kidney stones or bladder stones is essentially what this is. Where if it's severe enough and they do an x-ray and they look and there's stones like this big in your cat's body, like, there's no way that that's gonna come out, then they can do surgery to take those stones out. But for stones to be that big, your cat's either gonna have to be eating some really bad food or it's gonna have to have been going on for a really long time. Typically, they're just gonna say, give it some time, make sure they're drinking a lot of water so that they have to continue going to the bathroom and continue giving them the pain reliever so that it doesn't hurt them as much so that they're able to pass the stones. Wet eye. Wet eye is exactly what it sounds like. It's not really bad. It's typically like a genetic condition where the cat's tear ducts just produce way too much liquid, produce way too many tears, or there's a blockage in the cat's tear ducts. And it just causes the excessive tear production. Instead of like the tears going away, they're forced outward. And they get stuck in the corner of the eye. You'll see your cat squinting because they're trying to like clear their eye out and they can't really do that. You can see some inflammation, some redness, irritation, if it's from a blockage. If it's just straight up excessive tear production because it's a genetic condition, then you're probably not going to see the inflammation and redness because it's just the thing that happens. But if it's due to a blockage, then that's going to be where you see like the inflamed puffy eyes, the redness. You'll see discharge from the cat's eyes. It could be like a little bit gunky. If it's old, it could just be like straight up water, like tears. If it gets bad enough, and it's due to like a blockage, it gets inflamed, it causes an infection, then you can end up seeing ulcers on the cornea or ulcers on the cat's eye. But this is going to be like much further than expected. Typically, you're only going to see squinting, discharge from the eye, maybe a little bit of inflammation, at which point you take them to the vet to check to see if it's a blockage. If it's a blockage, then they're going to try to unblock it. If it's just a genetic condition, they're going to give you some eye drops. They're going to say, give these to your cats like once or twice a day, and it should decrease their tear production. And almost done. Internal parasites of cats. We've talked several times about toxoplasmosis. Toxoplasmosis is caused by a protozoa, which is like a little itty bitty bitty single-celled parasite. Toxoplasmosis or Toxoplasma gondii, there should be an A on the end of that. That is the name for the protozoa, for the parasite. Cats get toxoplasmosis first by eating raw meat or contaminated feces. Typically, this is going to be where they it's an outdoor cat. They go outside, they catch a bird, they catch a mouse, they catch something, and they decide to eat it. And the protozoa was first living in that bird or that mouse. Then the cat becomes the carrier. And then the cat goes inside, uses the litter box, and it's also passing that protozoa, the Toxoplasma gondii, through its feces. So again, some poop comes out of the litter box, the cat bats it around, cleans themselves up, cleans their paw, and then they're also ingesting that protozoa. So this is also a zoonotic disease, meaning it can be passed from animals to people. Pregnant women are especially susceptible to the Toxoplasma gondii because they're not diverting their resources just to themselves. They're having to send resources to the baby that they're trying to make. So pregnant women, it's highly advised that they don't handle litter boxes, like period, while they're pregnant. Because if they accidentally come in contact with the Toxoplasma gondii, then they can end up becoming infected. And the Toxoplasma gondii doesn't just affect like their digestive system. It can end up leading them to like have an abortion or lose some of their fertility. So pregnant women are typically just expected to not handle litter boxes because they don't want to risk the pregnancy over cleaning the cat's litter box. If your cat does have toxoplasmosis, then you may not necessarily know it. You're gonna see your cat may have a fever. Your cat may like have a little bit of difficulty moving. And you may see jaundice. Jaundice is where like the cat's skin and eyes start having this like yellowish color. Because the jaundice means that the kidneys aren't filtering out not pollutants, but the cat's kidneys aren't filtering things out the way that they should. So you may not even know that your cat has toxoplasmosis, but if they are an indoor-outdoor cat, or if they catch mice in your house, and there's a chance that they ate one of those things, then you want to be careful with it. You want to regularly clean out the litter box. You want to sanitize the litter box, like take everything out. Get yourself some gloves, a mask so you're not breathing in all that cat urine, and scrub it really, really good. Try to kill anything that may be living in there, because if your cat does get it or if they're carrying it, then there's no treatment. There isn't really anything that you can do for your cat or for yourself, because you want to keep in mind this is a disease that people can get. So I'll back up for just a second. Cats are susceptible to other internal parasites. Roundworms, tapeworms, hookworms, like all the other worms that we learned about in the dog unit and in the parasite unit. Cats can also get these, but I felt like it was a little bit redundant for me to go over basically the same stuff with tapeworms and roundworms and all that if we've already been over it. Toxoplasmosis was one that we didn't necessarily go over as an internal parasite of cats, so that's why we went over that one. So just keep in mind that cats can also get tapeworms and roundworms and hookworms and whipworms, and the list just kind of keeps going. They can also get the external parasites too, ticks and fleas and mites and everything. But again, if we've already been over that, then I don't feel like there's a need for us to go over it once again, if you know it. Just something to keep in mind. So what you guys are gonna do, I'll post this assignment. So this is a link to an article done by the Washington Post on the tiger at the Bronx Zoo that caught COVID-19, like the coronavirus that everyone is battling right now. It was previously thought that animals couldn't get the coronavirus that we're discussing right now, COVID-19. But after the tiger, her name was Nadia, after the tiger at the Bronx Zoo tested positive for it, people are really starting to look at like what animals can get it, what animals are susceptible, like why did these animals get it? So the article just kind of goes through that. It gives you some backstory. So it's 11 questions. Go through it. I think it's something really interesting to think about, like while we're having to sit at home dealing with the same exact virus. The other thing is the cat disease scenarios, and there's only 4. So you're just gonna go through, read the cat, you're gonna diagnose them, what is the cat sick with, and how do we treat that disease if there's a treatment. If there's not a treatment, just make sure you say like there is no treatment. But that is it. Just to recap one more time though, keep in mind that on on Friday, there's not going to be a video posted. There's going to be a code for SchoolNet questions for you to go through and answer those SchoolNet questions. And then if you need to work on any other makeup work, then that Friday is going to be that day. Then next week, we are going to start on our bird unit. So see you guys soon. It was always wonderful. Miss teaching you guys in the classroom, but every day or two, I do a Zoom lunch. So if y'all have time, if you have questions, if you just want to stop and say, hey, or you don't have anything going on around 1 o'clock, hop on Edmodo, join the Zoom link, and we can talk, catch up, because like I said, I do miss you guys. But good luck on the work. Thank you all for watching the lectures and doing the work. Hopefully I'll get to see you guys soon.